it's not that you don't have the skills, or, you can learn the skills as well. Like, everything can be learned. But it's about overcoming your fear, knowing that failure is part of the process, and you always gonna become better the more you try.
Welcome to the SheClicks Women in Photography podcast. I'm Angela Nicholson, and I'm the founder of SheClicks, which is a community for female photographers. In these podcasts, I talk with women in the photographic industry to hear about their experiences, what drives them, and how they got to where they are now. Our guest today is Paloma Tendero, a visual artist who explores themes around heredity, illness, and identity. She's participated in several artist in residence programs, and she's one of the 4 winners of the first 70-15-40 project, which aims to support photographers and videographers in creating a photo series or a short film and furthering their careers. Hi Paloma, thank you so much for joining me today on the SheClicks Women in Photography podcast.
Hello, thank you for having me today.
You're very welcome. Now, can we start by hearing about what sparked your interest in photography right at the beginning?
Well, I could say that it started very early on. When I was 10, when I did my communion, my family gifted me a camera. It was just a compact camera, but I used to take it with me during like holidays or school trips. And I felt that it was such a magical thing to have, that, I could kind of freeze those moments of those trips and then take it home and then see the photos. So when I turned 16, my grandfather gave me his old SLR camera, and I joined an after-school class where I actually learned in the darkroom how to develop my own film and how to actually make photos, and understood the depth of field and the F number. I don't know, I really got into it, and then I carry on through university.
Oh, fantastic. So you did a degree and then you've got a master's in photography as well, haven't you?
Yes, but my degree is in fine arts. So when I studied back in Spain, it was 5 years. So we did everything. We did painting, drawing, photography, sculpture, and I kind of started combining a bit. So my photography is very fine arty because of my background in fine arts. And then I did MA photography here at London College of Communication.
Why fine art? What was it that drew you to that?
Well, my grandfather was a painter, and every time he was visiting home, we will go to the Prado or we will go to the Thyssen, any collection in Madrid. And I don't know, I found it really fascinating. I really, really love, everything about art. And yeah, so it's interesting how I found a really strong visual language within photography, bringing, my love for the fine art and trying to combine the, sculptural pieces or some more classical pieces into the work.
What inspired you to work around the themes of illness, heredity and identity?
The idea of this project emerged from my personal experience with illness, but also witnesses the journey of others around me having health challenges. My mom had a kidney disease, which I inherited as well. And it was a real struggle to see her going through all of these ill changes in her body. And then while I was doing my MA photography, my mom passed away. And I really wanted to connect with her in a kind of a physical level because she wasn't here any longer. I thought, well, we do have this illness that is within me that, I carry, and also my grandmother as well. So I thought that, trying to connect kind of with my ancestors through kind of a physical present thing within today.
So does it help you sort of process your own illness as well? Think it through and deal with it?
Absolutely, 100%. I do feel that making art is a very cathartic thing. And I feel like every time I make a project, it kind of sometimes it's I question things, and through the work, I answer. And sometimes there is no answer, is just basically questioning, and I question again through making art. So yeah, that's kind of like my ways of like processing life and understanding, my body and the others around me.
Okay. So what inspired you to apply for the 70-15-40 project?
When I saw the open call and I saw the subject was change, then I thought, okay, I think this is something that, I'm interested on the changes that the body suffers. And I applied with a project called Shifting Bodies. And the idea behind the project is how maybe the natural stage of human beings are not just health, maybe is also sickness. And I think we live in that kind of like combination of those worlds between the health and the sick and inside and outside. There is a lot of dualities in this, and my work really focused on those dualities.
And how is the project going?
Good, much better than I expected. Or maybe, I don't know what I expected. I guess, we had a year to work on it. And it has been like really great to have a year to actually think about it, to test, to do some work. It's really difficult sometimes because I'm a bit of a very visual person and I go a lot with my gut and I have a very organic way to work. So sometimes when I have to put it into words or, something has to go through like a reading process or explaining even, I get nervous and I'm like, oh, I'm not sure. But no, I'm actually really pleased. And I have done a few shootings and I'm doing one more this Sunday, which I'm quite excited about it.
So how many shoots have you done so far?
I have done 3. And maybe, I don't know, it depends on the photographer, that might not be a lot. But for me and the way I work, it's quite steady, it's good. Because I take my time to think about what it is that is going to come into the images. And I want to, I don't want to just shoot because it's like, yeah, let's just do it. It's like, no, I really need to think about the process behind and organize what it is that I'm going to reflect on that work. So yeah, 3.
Please excuse this interruption. This podcast is sponsored by MPB, the world's largest platform for used photography and videography kit. MPB has transformed the way people buy, sell and trade equipment, making photography more accessible, affordable and sustainable. MPB is proud to partner with SheClicks to help support women photographers and their work. Okay, let's get back to the show. You photograph yourself a lot within your work. Are you doing that this time with this project?
Yes. So the idea was that I wanted to bring other bodies within the work, but then I found it challenging because I know myself very well and I know exactly like what it is that I want to do. And I felt like bringing other bodies, I thought I am bringing their story as well. Like, because it's quite of a personal thing when you talk about health, and I wasn't sure like how to, bring other people into this like story. So I created sculptural pieces which are made of recycled like domestic items, sofa and pillows and a duvet and mattress. So those are the bodies that they are kind of like enveloping me, and they are quite like large as well. So it's kind of like the same size as me. But then I'm kind of like wearing them and wrestling with them. Like, yeah, it's quite physical, the whole act or the photo, like what it will come. Yeah. So yeah, I'm in the photos.
Are you trying any new techniques or are you doing anything particularly different for this project?
Yes, I am trying to shoot from different angles and not just to have a tripod and have it set up in a one way. So I'm trying to find different ways of like perspectives where I can have the camera. Obviously, I have someone helping me because I cannot be wearing all of these things and also shooting at the same time. But I have been like looking at ideas of Venus lying down like on a bed and kind of resting. So I have some photographs, references to how I want, the body to be positioned. And I'm also shooting on analog with expiring film. And I think the expired film is really cool. Like the colors get a bit washed and it's a very dreamy feeling of the photos, which I like it a lot. And I wasn't sure when I started doing it, like, oh God, am I really wasting my time and money, using this expired film from 2010. But no, actually it's working and it's like very dreamy.
Do you shoot any digital backups or anything like that? Because it's just a bit hit and miss, isn't it, sometimes with such old film?
Yes, absolutely. I do have a digital camera always around, and I do like to have it. And I kind of it comes and goes really with my projects. I have shoot like most of my projects in digital, and I really like you can look at the photos straight away. Like it has something about the immediacy of it, and also it's cheaper. You can put it in your computer, and you don't have to kind of like spend money on developing. But I guess like it's just changed over the pandemic. But I wanted something a bit more like tactile, and I think that the shift it happened that slowing down, something a bit more like making something that is more tactile.
I guess also the lack of predictability of expired film, perhaps does that resonate really with what you're trying to portray as well when you're talking about illness and the unpredictability of bodies?
Yes, absolutely. The first project I made with an analog camera was my project on mutability that talks about illness and fertility. And, some of my friends were trying to have babies, and I suddenly questioned, will I have kids, knowing that I will pass down my genes and the consequences that comes with it. And then I started working on analog, and I thought, well, I guess there is something about the weight and not knowing, and that you can predict what is happening, and the chemistry as well. So in that project, I actually blended the chemistry and I did a cross-processing so to look how it looked like. So I guess now I'm trying to see like what happened when the filmings expire, like will it give me a different outcome?
Yeah. And when you're working on a project, is it your intention to include all of the images that you create in an exhibition, assuming there's enough space, or do you make a selection?
I make a selection. Yes, no, everything goes. Sometimes it's difficult to edit, and I think this is something that another reason why I applied for the 70-15-40 project was because I wanted to have like mentoring support on how to edit a project and when do you decide, okay, this photo make it and this one doesn't. And sometimes it's good to have another pair of eyes, so it's not just you like deciding what it is going or not.
Yeah. So in the ideal world, what would we expect to see at the 70-15-40 project exhibition from you? Have you thought about how big the prints are going to be? How are you going to print them? How many we might see?
Yes. So I'm doing some test prints and thinking about how I would like to show the project. I usually frame, but then I have a collection of frames at my studio of like prints that I haven't sold or exhibit, and they are just there. And in the last project, I started experimenting with other ways of showing photography that is not just like printing and framing. So I'm trying to see other ways of presenting the work. It might happen that I end up framing, and I love it too, But it's a good way to show work in a different way, and especially when talking about the body, I want something physical into the space. or maybe hanging, or I don't know.
Do you think that your experience as a female photographer or artist is different from that of a male photographer? Have you noticed anything different?
I think there is something about the confidence that male photographers have that maybe female photographers don't have. And it's not something about the abilities or, like even the work, but it's the way of like how people put themselves out there. And I remember going to a talk with a curator, and she was saying that she often have a lot of like men being very direct to her about, shall we have a coffee? Do you want to see my portfolio? Do you have any work upcoming? But then she noticed that females don't do that. A woman just don't go and ask her about, do you want a coffee? Or, it's always kind of like, oh, sorry to bother you. And it's like, no, you're not bothering me. But, I think we are being educated to kind of like not bother anyone. And that's why we are a bit more like, behind, let's say.
Sometimes people question the need for competitions or programs that are specifically targeted at women, but it sounds like really they're still very much needed because there needs to be that extra encouragement to get women to participate.
Yeah, I think as a woman, I don't know, there is a lot of things going on, from, I would say the typical things, but it's through the hormonal cycles or then, having children. There is certain things that, I don't feel necessarily the industry is having in consideration when, putting work out there or, making open calls or something like that. Sometimes the roles are still like, it needs some work on society to, know everybody has the same roles.
So Paloma, what advice would you give to other female photographers who are thinking about applying for a bursary or a scheme like the 70-15-40 project?
Well, I will encourage them to keep applying and to seek opportunities. You don't have to apply for everything, but for opportunities that really speaks to you and to your artistic vision. And I feel that persistence often pays off. And after many rejections, there is one opportunity that can make a significant step in your career. So don't give up. Even if you have rejections, there's always there an opportunity for you. So keep going.
Okay, I think that's really good advice. Thank you. Right, I think it's a really good time to go to 6 from SheClicks. And I've got 10 questions from SheClickers. I would like you to answer 6 of them, please, by picking numbers from 1 to 10. So could I have your first number, please?
2.
Number 2. How do you decide when a project is finished, or are they never really finished? That question is from Marianne.
Okay. God, it's really difficult because sometimes it's, as I say before, when that question is answered, let's say. So when I have something to explore internally and I feel like, okay, I have explored it, now I can let it go. But other times, you making work and then you keep going and going and going. And it's like, oh, why do I keep going? Is that because I haven't answered the question, or is it something that I am looking for? So yeah, I think eventually you get satisfied, when you explore long enough.
Yeah. That sounds a little bit like the images that you create are really just like a side, I'm trying to think what the correct word, a byproduct of your creative process. And there's much more going on. Obviously, you have a lot of props in your photography, don't you? And you do a lot of planning. But is that actually the creative part that answers the questions for you? Or is it the images?
It is the shooting, actually. So I start, as I mentioned, like very organically making these kind of sculptural pieces that sometimes I'm not really sure what they are. And then I start building. And it's the moment where I get in front of the camera and I perform and I do this when it's like, that's it. is done. That's when I finish.
Okay. All right. Can I have your second number then, please?
And that's going to be number 3.
Number 3. You've answered this in a way, but let's explore it a bit further. Do you do a lot of pre-planning of your images, or do you just go with the flow? Now, you've mentioned that you do quite a bit of planning. You have some reference photos. Do you do a bit of sketching? Do you know exactly what you're going to shoot for each image? Or is there some sort of play that goes along?
There is planning, and there is a lot of sketches, and I do drawings, and I have like inspirational like storyboards. I don't know, like I do kind of have a plan. And then suddenly I don't have a plan, and then I freestyle. So it's kind of like both ways, you know. And I think it's good to go into a shooting with open mind and not just with a rigid idea of like, this is it. Because you might not feel that way the day of the shooting. You arrive, you have all of your planning, and then you don't feel it. And then you think, you know what, I'm just going to put some music on and I'm going to see how I feel. And I'm just going to move with what I have. So yeah, I think you have to be open-minded to freestyle as well.
Yeah. Can I have your third number, please?
9.
Number 9. What emotions do you experience when you're creating your images, and how do you counteract any negative emotions? That's from Janina.
There are different elements and different emotions going on through the work. And sometimes I experience a lot of frustration. And I think the more I make, the less frustrated I feel. It's like, you know, when you are like cooking and you might cook a dish and you are like, oh, you know, it could have been better. So you try again and then you're like, okay, it's getting better, and then you master it. So I feel with photography, with art, it's about keep going and keep trying and do it again. Because sometimes we get stuck with an idea or an emotion and it frustrates us because it's like, oh my God, like I did it right this time. Why this one is not coming? And it's just maybe the space or the time that you are at the moment in your life. You know, it's not that you don't have the skills, or, you know, you can learn the skills as well. Like everything can be learned. But it's about overcoming your fear, knowing that failure is part of the process and you always gonna become better the more you try.
It sounds like you're able to put aside the emotions associated with having an illness and your family's illness. And actually it's more to do with the creation of the artwork that gives you the frustration and the emotion you're experiencing.
Yeah, I guess God is difficult, but there is a part of acceptance. Whereas I accepted that, you know, we are human beings in the world and this is it. Like we experience both health and illness, and it's frustrating to think that, you know, we have the lack of control. But even though I cannot control my body or I cannot control my family illness, I can control my art. And I think that is for me the power, you know, I have a power of control over my art that I don't have over my physical body. And that's really special for me to have that, you know, I can see where my project is going. So that's how I work.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great approach. Could you give me your fourth number, please?
That's number 8.
Do your project titles or image captions come before or after the picture? That question's from Liz.
Usually, they come after the picture. Yeah, I will shoot the project and then I will be like, oh yeah, it's about this, it's about that. And then I will kind of build the narrative. However, after going to university and then applying for grants and applying for like awards, people want to know the title before. And it's something that is very challenging. And I feel like you have to practice quite a bit in your writing and your project research way in advance. And know that, okay, you are putting a title to this project and you're trying to work towards that. And it might change and might not. But yeah, so I usually prefer to put the title after. But now I put the title first and I'm trying to work toward that. And it's also a nice experience. Yeah.
Okay, well, fair enough. Could I have your fifth number then, please?
Number 5.
Do you work on one project at a time, or do you have several on the go?
Usually I work in one project at a time because I also have another work to do, which is my day job. And obviously, I can't be in everything. But while I'm doing a project, I read several books at a time. So I might have like a text or a book or an article, or so I kind of like pick in many things at a time to kind of fit my creativity. So I try to read a lot.
Sounds like a good plan. And your final number, please.
7.
On a practical level, how do you photograph yourself? Do you have an assistant? Do you use a remote cable? Do you use a self-timer? Several people ask that.
Okay, I have done everything, all of the above.
All right.
So for now, I have my boyfriend who is also like photography lover, and he is the one who has helped me in the last 2 projects. And it's really nice because I know him well and he knows me, so it's easy to work. But I have done everything. I have self-timers and I run back and forth. Then I got a cable, then I got like a remote one, and then university friends has helped me, flatmates as well. It has been a combination. And I think every shooting is special in its own way, regardless if it's like me alone or with someone else. Yeah,
because looking at some of your work, some of the positions you're in, it's very precise. You're very carefully positioned, and it would be really hard to have just run in and done that. And equally, in some, it looks like it would be impossible for you to be holding anything.
Yes, absolutely. There is one in Cellula, the project, where I have something in my head. So I have my control remote inside the headpiece. So I keep clicking through the top of my head.
Right.
So I am there, like trying, yeah. So it depends, yeah.
Yeah, very ingenious. Okay. Paloma, thank you so much for joining me on the SheClicks Women in Photography podcast. It's been really lovely to hear from you.
Thank you so much for inviting me today, and have a lovely day.
Thank you. You're very welcome. Bye-bye. Thanks for listening to this episode of the SheClicks Women in Photography podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. Special thanks to everyone who sent in a question. You'll find links to Paloma's social media channels and website in the show notes. I'll be back with another episode soon, so please subscribe to the show on your favourite podcast platform and tell all your friends and followers about it. You'll also find SheClicks on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and YouTube if you search for SheClicksNet. So until next time, enjoy your photography.